Welcome to this video on server-side tracking for leads. My name is Kyle Rutledge. I've been in the marketing industry since 2012, and I've been doing server-side tracking since 2018, so that's over 6 years now. I recently went through a more complex than usual setup for a client. It goes over tracking Squarespace forms, getting the records into Jobber, Zapier, all the issues that we ran into in between, having to use Google Sheets to make this work, and then getting everything back into Google Ads and Facebook Ads. So I would love to show you how I did this here. Let's jump into things. So first, the outline. We are going to go through a few requirements in order to make this work, okay? And then I'll go through some overviews of server-side tracking, how to capture the UTM parameters in Squarespace forms, creating custom parameters inside of Jobber or any CRM for that matter, integrating your CRM or Jobber in this case with Zapier, and then using Zapier to get everything back into Google Ads or Facebook Ads to complete the server-side tracking, and a lot of the roadblocks we ran into along the way. Requirements. You need a landing page or lead form ads. A landing page with forms. In those forms, you need to be able to capture hidden fields and be able to capture the UTM parameters. We ran into issues with Squarespace, which I will talk about. You need a CRM that you can store hidden fields in. We ran into an issue with Jobber actually and had to use Google Sheets, and so I'll show you that workaround. And then finally, you need a way to trigger a Zapier integration from whatever CRM or wherever you're storing the data, so Jobber. Real quick introduction on conversion tracking. So conversion tracking works as follows. You will go from the ad platform to the landing page in most cases. Phone calls and lead forms can happen directly from the ad platforms. And then you'll track your phone calls from submissions, chat widget, and so on. In our case, we are talking today about form submissions on the website. That can be from Google Ads or Facebook Ads, and then also lead form extension ads from Facebook Ads, or the Facebook form ads. And those are our leads. Okay, we normally track from web-based scripts. And so this is the typical conversion tracking that you're probably more familiar with. When one of these items happens, it triggers a script, it fires a conversion, and all of that is web-based. It's on the website, and it's directly between the script that fires and going straight back to the ads platform. Now, sometimes you run into issues there. What we are doing is we're tracking down the funnel further, so how leads move into qualified leads, opportunities, and ultimately sales. What server-side tracking is we're taking those pieces of information, taking it from our CRM or some offline source, and pushing that back into the ad platform. Hence, server-side tracking. It's also known as offline conversion tracking or end-to-end tracking. Inside of Google Ads, when you create a conversion action, they are set to primary by default. The reason why this is so important is you can start setting different stages to secondary metrics, meaning you'll still track those conversions, you'll still have the numbers, but you're not encouraging the AI to target people who are just becoming leads. You're telling Google, in this case, I want people who are turning into qualified leads, not just any lead. I want people who are turning into deals and opportunities, not just qualified leads. And qualified leads could be marketing qualified leads, could be sales qualified leads. And then lastly, you can optimize all the way down to sales, assuming you get enough data to make that happen. Okay, so that is server-side tracking. For our case, we are using Squarespace to track our form submissions. We are using Jobber and Google Sheets to capture the lead information. We are using Zapier to integrate it all. And then we are pushing everything back into Facebook Ads and Google Ads to complete the conversion tracking. I do want to call out, this whole process is way, way, way easier if you're using a CRM like HubSpot. This whole process has taken me well over a month to complete. I've done this twice already with other clients with HubSpot, and it took less than an afternoon to do. So I do want to just give that caveat. If you can afford a higher quality CRM, I would consider it highly. For this client situation, they could not do that because their CRM is very industry specific and it's part of their business operations. Okay, that actually covers the introduction. So on to how to capture UTM parameters inside of Squarespace forms. So first of all, a quick introduction. What are UTM parameters? UTM parameters are a snippet of text that you can add to the end of a URL that helps track where website traffic comes from. Okay, this is important because we need to capture Google Click IDs and Facebook Click IDs to get this server-side tracking to work. Whenever anybody clicks from a Google ad or a Facebook ad, they will get a Google Click ID or a Facebook Click ID appended to the end of their UTM parameters. There are 5 industry standard UTM parameters. These are them: source, medium, campaign, term, and content. Then we'll add the Google Click ID or Facebook Click ID. And I'll just call this out here. We have a Facebook lead ID. These don't come from our forms. If someone fills out a form through a Facebook ad, they'll get a Facebook lead ID appended, or not appended, but added to the data that it pushes to us. So we have an example down here below. This is how they look as they are all put together. We have our question mark here, which indicates the beginning of tracking parameters. And then we have all of our parameters here: campaign, and then you can see search plus campaign, that's a space, the plus, and then the and sign, UTM underscore source equals Google, and UTM medium equals CPC, so on and so forth. This is how UTM parameters work. Okay, so let me come up here to an example. Inside of Squarespace, what we need are hidden fields. So this is our form editor. At the bottom of this form editor, we have what are here these hidden fields. Okay, so they show up in the field, they're capturing information, but you don't see them live in the field in the form here. You can simply add them here by clicking add and go to the hidden field item. Most form builders have this functionality, but you do need to check to make sure that yours can do this as well. So there are a few issues that we run into. When you create your hidden field here, you'll just label it with what you want to capture. Most of the time that works in and of itself. Now we run into an issue here with Squarespace where they change the formatting. Okay, so we need our UTMs formatted in this very specific way: SQF Squarespace form underscore UTM underscore source to capture the UTM source. Same thing with all of them. Google Click ID, SQF underscore GCLID. We run into a few issues. Okay, so what I have for you here is a close-up of my URL string. So the first thing that you'll notice, this is how it looks when you load your page. I have my question mark, I have my UTM string, UTM underscore campaign equals search plus campaign. Okay, perfect. But if anybody comes to my site, they're going to click to the Contact Us or the About Us page, and then what do you notice? All of the UTMs fall off. So that's issue number 1. Issue number 2, they are still not in that format. Okay, the SQF underscore all caps UTM underscore campaign. So that's issue number 2. So let me show you how we solve this for my client. So this is their page here. I have pulled in that same UTM string and added it to the end. So watch here when I load this page, what happens to the UTMs. Okay, see what happened there? Immediately this reloaded the URL string. It didn't refresh the page, it's not loading twice, it's not adding to page speed load times, but it's just swapping the parameters here in the string to be those upgraded values. That's very important. Now if I navigate here to another page, what's happening? As we loaded the page here, I'm storing these values into a cookie. And as we navigate from page to page, we are grabbing those parameters from the cookie and rebuilding this URL string here. So if I go to the request a quote page, I still have my UTM parameters. We can see this form that we edited before, and now this will automatically pull in all of our values from our URL string and put them into the form here. Those are all the issues that we ran into with Squarespace forms. I hope that that saves you a lot of headache and heartache, because that took us a good amount of time to figure out. And we did that in 3 separate scripts. 1 to upgrade the URL parameters. 2, store all the parameters in a cookie. The third thing is rebuilding the tracking parameters as you go from page to page. Okay, those are the 3 things. That covers your UTM parameters. That's how to capture UTMs in Squarespace forms and some of the issues we ran into along the way. Next up here, we are talking about creating custom fields in Jobber, or in any CRM for that matter, and then some of the issues we ran into there. It is not that difficult here. If you go up into your settings, you come to your custom fields over here on the left, you can create client custom fields. When you create these fields, hit add field here, make it transferable so you can use this in multiple places. It's a simple text field. And then I just type in the UTM source, exactly what you're seeing here, all of these different values: Facebook lead ID, Facebook click ID, Google click ID. Okay, if you are using Jobber, we do run into an issue here. So that completes how to create the custom parameters inside of Jobber. But the issue that we run into is we actually can't integrate with Jobber here directly. So we need to use a Google Sheet. Okay, we're moving on to part 4 and 5 now in the 5-step process that I laid out. I am going to re-record these last few sections because as I was editing these sections, I noticed that a few things had changed. And so I want to give you the most up-to-date information as possible. And so I'm actually not going to be sharing too much of the slides. I'm just going to show you in platform. I feel like that's going to be the easiest way for you to understand what's going on. So let me just jump into things here. I do want to go back. So in our Zapier, I've created these example zaps so I can show you in a little bit more detail what I'm talking about here. So let me just hide my camera. So to get our form submissions, this is how it should be. This is how simple it should be. We have a new form submission from our Squarespace form. That creates a new client in Jobber, and we configure that to pipe in, create all the Jobber, put all the Jobber information into there. Additionally, we add it to a Google spreadsheet. Okay, so when you configure this, we're adding all of our information to a spreadsheet here. Now I've pulled an example of the exact spreadsheet that we're using for this. And this is what it looks like. We have their first name, last name, all their information. This date created field becomes very important later on. And we have Facebook, Google click IDs, Facebook lead IDs, and all of our UTM parameters here, which you'll be able to use for reporting later on. So this is really important that we're gathering this in this first initial zap. So this is new form submissions from the website. We also have a version of this that's doing the exact same thing, pulling in from a Facebook form lead submission, creating the client account in Jobber, creating this spreadsheet row and mapping all of the data accordingly. Now, the reason I show this basic example is my client, they wanted it to send an email. They had a second sheet, and I think this is just easier for you to understand. Okay, so that's getting the information in. Now, what happens inside of Jobber is obviously we'll have some people that will progress down the funnel. This is the whole reason we're doing this. So inside of Jobber, we have a trigger created for a new quote created. There are a lot of different things you can trigger off of in Jobber specifically, but the new quote created and the quote approved are the two that have been the big milestones for us in this client. But you can do this off of as many stages as you'd like. So to walk through this one step at a time, we are creating our trigger based off of that new quote being created. Now, we aren't able to map into Jobber. I guess this is something I didn't share in that last zap. One of the issues that we run into is Jobber you can't map into hidden fields inside of Jobber. That's a big issue for us because we can't store those values inside of there and then pull them out. Ideally, in any other CRM, not any other, but most other CRMs, you'd be able to pull out the information and then skip the second step because we have the click IDs, the Google Click ID, everything inside of Jobber already. We don't need to store it inside of this spreadsheet. So what we have here is we're triggering the event, we're pulling some of their information, and then it's referencing this Google Sheet. Okay, and so how I have this configured is it is doing, well, let me go to the setup. It is looking up a spreadsheet row. Now there are a few things in here that we ran into issues with. One, you want it to have a lookup column where it's looking up their email address. There is a supporting lookup column option. I had that initially looking up their phone number. The problem was Jobber reformatted their phone number into a different style, and this was actually giving us errors. It was trying to not look up based off of email first, and if it didn't find it, then the phone number. It was doing a combination of the two, and it gave us some inconsistent results. So I skipped the supporting lookup stage altogether. I searched from the last row because your list will probably get pretty long, and it's more efficient to search from the bottom up. And then I have this marked as successful and continue running the results here as we continue. You can do this one of two ways. You can have this stop if it doesn't find anybody. Down here, when we get to our Facebook conversions, sometimes you do want to continue pushing the values that you have, the name and phone number, to try and match somebody anyways, because Facebook has the capacity to do that. And so I'll talk more about that when we get to the path conditions here. Okay, I then have two formatting steps here. This first step is formatting by numbers. So this is a new quote created. My client has told me that with their sales process, they should be getting quotes approved and deals made at least a 30% close ratio. And so this is modeled off of, for any new quote we have created, it is going to estimate the value of that new quote based on that 30%. And so I have this, the action event is numbers. We are doing a spreadsheet style formula. When you open this up, it is at the bottom. You have to scroll a little bit. And then you'll pull the value from your quote and multiply it by whatever percentage your close rate is or minimum close rate is. And then as I'm piping in values to my ad platforms, that'll give me an estimated value of what someone at this stage is worth. So that's what I have there. And then I'm pulling a date formatter step. And so in my setup here, I have it date and time. I'm pulling the spreadsheet data. So in the spreadsheet row, I'm pulling that date created field. If you remember, I mentioned this date created is very important. It has to be formatted in the correct format. The correct format is this one right here, this year, month, date, hour, minute, second, Z. What this Z does is it adds your time zone conversion to the end here, this negative whatever. So we're going to be in central time for this client. And so we're formatting to central time from I forget the name of that, Greenwich something. That's 0 time, right? Everything is based from either a positive or negative based off this time around the world. Okay, so that's how we're formatting this. And I'll touch more on why that's important later when we get into the Facebook, the Google step. Okay, and now we have it split into paths. It's pulled the record, it's found the information about this person, and so now it goes path A, path B. Path A comes over here, and what I have this pulling is, I wasn't able to pull, well, I guess I could, right here. Nope, I didn't actually connect it. Where I have this pulling is it's referencing this row right here, this Google Click ID. If that Google Click ID is true, I have this selected as a Boolean option. So is there something in this field? If it's true, a yes, no, then it continues down this path. If Google Click ID is empty, I have this set on the Facebook side to fallback. Now you may want to do this as a custom rule as well, and you may want to do it as Boolean, true, or so you do your Facebook click ID or your Facebook lead ID. So that's another way to do it. If you only want people pushing through if they have one of those, then this is the way that you'd want to do it. If you want to do it as a fallback, that's how I've set mine up. Okay, and that will allow that'll allow you to try to upload some of the leads that you may have a missing Facebook lead ID or Facebook click ID, or potentially Facebook could even just match it with somebody else that converted somewhere else and it learns more data off of that. And so I have that going on. You may want to do it the other way for reporting purposes. It may be more accurate. So 2 ways of doing that. Okay. I'll talk a little bit about the rest of the steps here in the Zap, and then I'll actually jump into the add platforms and show you what it looks like in the platforms. Inside of here, we have a Google Sheet. This template is provided by Google. So you can see what I'm doing is adding spreadsheet rows here with all of the information. And this is what's going to get uploaded into Google to import my conversions. This gets uploaded once a day at midnight, and we'll talk more about that later. In here, I have it associated with my Google Drive. I pulled up the spreadsheet template. You select the worksheet. The problem here, let me just show you this right here. So this is what it looks like when you open it up. And I've given one example row of data here. Okay. The problem here is these first 6 rows of data, they get in the way when you run a Zap. So what you actually want to do is delete these first 6 rows, and then you have it starts with these column names. What this allows you to do is actually see all of the fields you need to map into. So that's pretty important here. And that's why we need to actually format it. If you didn't have to do that, you can actually do a time zone conversion right here. You can follow the link, I believe this link here. It gives you these instructions. And you can find your time zone that you want to convert it to. And so you just add in whatever time zone conversion you want, and then all of your data will be converted to that time zone. Because we have to delete these first 6 rows, we need our conversion time formatted into this format here. So you can see this -500, which is converting it into Central Time, US time. Okay. So now that I can actually see these rows, I would be able to map into the Google Click ID, conversion time. Let me just show you inside of the sheet here what it looks like. So your Google Click ID, I've excluded some of the data here for privacy, and you'll see that a lot more throughout the remainder of this video. I've redacted some information, trying to keep this a little bit more sensitive and private for my client. Our conversion name, new quote created. So you want to make sure that whatever conversion name you give in here, whatever you're importing, you're typing this in. So new quote created. This has to match exactly with what you put into the Google Ads platform later on. That's important to note. And then you'll actually do the same thing for your new job created. Sorry, this one's still incorrect. This is still a new quote created. This one triggers off of a quote approved. Okay, so you'll have however many stages you want to track, you'll create the same amount of zaps for. So your conversion name, that's important. Your conversion time, you will map this in from your formatter step, not from Jobber or any other source. Conversion value, you're also mapping this in from your formatter if you used one. In this final step, this quote approved, I took out the number formatter because now we're using the full value. Because they actually approved the quote, they're becoming a customer at the full value of the quote. Okay, the rest of this is pretty much identical, besides changing out the name of the conversion. So we have our conversion time, conversion value, currency. I always hard code this in. So conversion currency, USD. Add user data. I'm going to show you a way, if you're in the US, where you don't have to enter this information. If you're in the European Economic Area, the EEA, yeah, that's right, EEA, you do need to have this where you're stating specifically that these people do comply with your data privacy policies and the ad personalization policies. You do need to have this. This is an all caps yes, no type field here. Once you have this, you'll be ready to do your uploads into Google. I'll show you everything in platform in Google here in a minute. I'm going to finish showing you the Zaps, and then I'll go into Google, and then I'll go into Facebook. So we have our fallback path here. If they don't have a Google Click ID, they're coming over to the Facebook side. What I have is my business account. I actually don't have a pixel for this business yet. I'm not running Facebook ads for my own business at this point. But whoever owns the pixel has to do the integration with it. Once they share it, then if you're not the owner of it, you'll be able to use it, but they have to add it in. That's important to note. Time of customer event, you can leave this blank if you want, and it'll add in the time that the Zap fires. Or I would prefer that you add in whether it's the time that the quote was created from Jobber or the time that the quote was approved. Add in those times. Add in the stage. So again, this is your conversion name. You're going to use the CRM as Zapier. I know that we're using a Jobber integration, but this is actually coming from Zapier, and Facebook recognizes it as Zapier. You'll have your conversion ID and Facebook click ID, your lead ID and click ID coming from your formatter, your Google Sheet up here when we search those rows. Or if you're not using Jobber, you may be pulling it directly from your CRM, which is ideal. Customer email, phone number. If it doesn't have a lead ID or a click ID, then it'll try and attempt it off of an email and phone number. So once you've added in your customer email, customer phone number, I have this last step here, and this is pushing to a sheet in Facebook where I can just see every Zap that's fired. And this has helped me a lot with troubleshooting. Again, redacted some information here, but this is exactly what it looks like. I just have all the information that I may need coming out here. One thing to note, we have our event time here. This is when that quote was approved or the new quote was created. I also am pulling in here the date created field from our original sheet. So this is telling me when the lead was created, not necessarily when the quote was created or the quote was approved. This has been important for us for reporting purposes. So that's all the sheets that I'm using. That's all the Zaps that I'm using. So let me jump back here. Let me jump into Google Ads now and show you everything that we have going on in there. Okay, inside of Google Ads, we're starting here in the Data Manager. So Tools, Data Manager. And the first thing that you'll want to do, it can be done later, but I like to integrate my Zapier account from here, especially if we're going to be using it multiple times. But the big thing that I wanted to come into here for is the consent settings. So in the consent settings, you can come to this default consent settings here, drop this down, and if you're in the US, you can mark all data as automatically consented. If you're in the European Economic Area, you need to import that on an individual basis with every record that you upload. You can't do this here. So set that to yes, and then we're going to go over here into our goals section. So the first thing that we're going to do is set up our conversion actions, and then we'll get into the uploads. Inside of the conversion actions, we'll click on this blue button. On the right hand, we're going to import. We're going to select CRMs and then import from clicks, track conversions from clicks. Now that we already integrated our Zapier account, you can select this top option and you already have it selected here. If you didn't do that before, you can add it here, search Zapier, and add it. So I'm going to select Zapier. I'm going to check this box to consent for customer data and hit continue. Once I have this created, I will select the category that this stage is, whether it's a qualified lead, converted lead. This one is qualified lead, and this would be new quote created. I'm going to use a different value for each conversion, and I know that for this client, it's roughly $1,200 that they'll get, which is their full value times the at minimum 30% close rate. Okay, I want to count one conversion if they get uploaded multiple times. I don't want it to multi-count. And then I'm going to go ahead and create and continue. Gave me an issue because I'd already created that once. On this next step, it's going to want me to create the zaps directly in here in the account. Now you can do this. I typically don't do it because I like to create it in the Zapier.com interface. I like to create folders for my zaps, keep things organized. And so you can just come down here and hit done. Okay. Once you have that done, you will have your first conversion action built. And then you'll want to do that for every other conversion action that you want to create. For my purposes, I'm going to remove this because I don't need it. Once you have those conversion actions created, you'll come to this upload section on the left-hand side. In here, when you click on this blue button in the upload section, it'll give you this hyperlink text for view templates. This is where you get that template that I shared before. This button right here will give you the exact spreadsheet that I was sharing before, so you can have access there. Once you have that sheet, what you need to do, you could upload it here. This is more of like a one-time upload. So we want to go to schedules, click the blue button. You're going to select your source, Google Sheet, and then you click on this hyperlink text here, link an existing Google Sheet. You'll go in and select which sheet you want uploaded. And the next thing you need to do is copy this email address, go into your sheet and share editor access with this email address. If they don't have access to it, they can't upload it. So share that email address, set the frequency. I like to do every 24 hours, 12 a.m. So every night at midnight, it's going to upload, and it even has our time zone selected here, Central Time. Okay. With that, you will have a recurring upload into Google Ads. In this upload section is where you'll see the upload history. And if there are any issues, any errors that you get, that is where you'll be able to troubleshoot those issues. Okay, that's it for Google Ads. Let's go into the Facebook ads section here. Okay, so in the back end of Facebook here, I have a few things blocked off for data privacy concerns. The first thing that you'll want to do is make sure that you have a CRM event set up. A CRM pixel set up. On the left-hand side here, you want to come over and connect data sources. In here, you want to connect a CRM data source, hit next. You'll go through this process. If I go here, it's going to give my client account's ID, which I don't want to do, but it's a really simple process. You choose the CRM, you choose the pixel that you want to set up as a CRM pixel. You can configure an existing web pixel to be a CRM pixel, or you can create a new one. Either way, it doesn't impact things too much. Once you have that created, it's going to prompt you to create a Zap, just like it did in Facebook. You can just cancel that out, and it should take you over here to the settings. Once you're in the settings here, you'll see that you're probably on this first step of steps to completion. In this step, you'll have chosen Zapier, and to get to the next steps, all it's waiting for is data. So I've started sending over data. I'll show you that over here on the front end. You can see all of these events that have started populating over. We have our quotes approved, new quotes created, and they're coming in from our conversions API. So as of 4 hours ago, we got the last piece of data. So it's waiting for 7 consecutive days of good CRM event data in order to continue the configuration here. But in order to get this set up, there's a few things down below. I'm going to skip down past their ID again and show you what to configure here. Okay, what you want to try and find, scroll down until you find this manage event blocking. The first time you try and send events over to your Facebook account, it's going to say that there's an action required on some of these events. You need to select those events and accept them. So I had to do this with quote approved, new quote created. Now they're in my confirmed section here, and I'm able to get in those events from that conversions API from the CRM. Coming down here, I turned on this automatic advanced matching. This is what is helping me. If they don't have a Facebook click ID or a lead ID, it's going to try and match them based off their email and phone number. So that's why I have that fallback filter stage. It's because I have this to try and match more data, get us more data for optimizations. Up top, you configured the conversions API already through Zapier, so this should show as a connected partner with Zapier, but I always come down here just to make sure that it got connected. Once you have those settings, you should be good to go. That's everything that I configured in order to get this running for my client. And as you can see, we have quite a bit of data here. We got a lot in yesterday because we had a lot of backed up data. I fixed some things in Zapier, hence why I'm re-recording this video, and then push them all through all at once. That should wrap up our server-side tracking for leads here. I hope this has been beneficial to you. Like I mentioned before, it has been a challenge getting everything set up for this client. We've learned a lot along the way. There are a lot of things that aren't really shared publicly right now that I hope I've brought to light here. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Like, comment, and subscribe. It helps me. If you have any videos that you'd like me to record in the future, let me know. I'd be happy to take those into consideration. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time. Hope you have a great day. Bye.